make a number?
What number?
Will you make the number 1 for me? Oh my goodness! Okay, can you shake it and erase it? All right, can you make a number 2? Oh my goodness, you're a professional.
Okay, next we're going to have Ms. Schultz come and speak with Monty about individual learning bubbles.
My name is Margot Schultz, and I am a kindergarten teacher. And this is my friend Monty Viverette. And this year, mobility around the classroom is quite restricted. And the classrooms are divided into 6-foot squares that we've kind of named the learning bubbles. So with them not being able to, move around the room, they feel, sometimes they get antsy, sometimes they feel restricted. So we have come up with some things that we do in the classroom to get them up and moving and kind of explore the space and have kind of some normalcy into our day. So Monty, you want to tell us some things that we use our squares for? Okay.
We do go noodle. We take brain breaks, and sometimes we take naps.
Awesome, friend. Do you have a favorite Go Noodle that you like to do?
I like to exercise.
Those are great. Our squares, our learning bubbles are also good spaces for the kids to use when they have inclement weather days for recess. And so they can play Go Noodle or do exercise in their spaces and keep socially distanced, but have a good time as well. Thank you. You're welcome.
And this is just a short video to show how the students use their learning bubbles in the classroom to get their wiggles out and to do some learning. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. I apologize for that. Okay, and next up we have Ms. Heedy with her student, Judah.
Hi, my name is Ashley Heedy. I teach kindergarten at Marvin Elementary, and this is my boy, Judah Pimblott. One of the hard things with adjusting to kindergarten this year is that with a socially distanced classroom, we've lost a sacred space. We've lost our carpet, which is really the center point of any classroom, but especially a primary grade, especially kindergarten. Upon coming back to school, I noticed that my students were having trouble maintaining engagement in a reading lesson. We're very fortunate at Ritenour to have so much technology. I could display a story for students to see, but I didn't have that interaction. I'm also a very lucky teacher that the district's given me an opportunity to be a part of the NPD grant. So I currently attend Webster University in cohort 7 for teaching English as a second language. And through this opportunity, I've taken a class teaching English as a second language methodologies. And one strategy that we've learned about is called total physical response, or TPR. And even though this is used with our students that are learning, and one strategy that we've learned about is called total physical response, or TPR. And even though this is used with our students that are learning, and one strategy that we've learned about is called total physical response, or words. And we've had a lot of fun doing this with our poetry. So Judah, is there anything you want to tell us that you like about reading and about any of our lessons that we do together?
I like that we get to learn new words.
And what are some of the new words that you've learned? Can you show us one or two?
See?
The sight words we also do this with the visual cue and gestures with teaching kids sight words, like I and see. All right, and we have a short video of a TPR that was taken in the classroom.
I apologize. I'm hoping that maybe we can share out the other Google Slides so that our board members can access those videos at a later time. And lastly, I have Ms. Grabner, who is our RVA teacher for kindergarten this year.
Hi, I'm Shalon Grabner. I am the Ritenour Virtual Academy teacher for kindergarten at Marvin. And when I say that to most people, that I teach virtual kindergarten, they really greet me with skepticism. Really? Kindergarten? Virtually? Is that possible? So my answer is yes, it's possible. We're doing a really amazing job, actually. The two components that I think have been most important for me to figure out with this new way of teaching are engagement and community. Engagement is I need their little faces to be right there in the screen with me. And we do that through creating really fun lessons. We read, we write, we sing, we talk, and we move in every single lesson. And they really are engaged. Their little faces are like right there. And the other one is community. We've built a really strong community of learners, even virtually. They see themselves as friends. They give each other air hugs, and when one of them does something great, I'll say, "What kind of stuff was that?" And they'll say, "That was good stuff, woo!" And they just communicate with each other. They know each other's name. We have brain break opportunities where they have these spontaneous moments of, "Hey, let's all show something that we have at our house that's great," or "Let's all draw a picture together." And they really are just really supportive of each other. So then the question becomes, okay, engagement, community, does that lead to learning? And the answer again is yes. we have assessments that we are doing that prove that they are learning and they're growing, and I couldn't be more thrilled. So it's gone way above and beyond what I expected for this experience to be. So it's been really great. I asked my beautiful little friends over there, I asked them what their favorite part about all of those things I just described are, and if it works, we'll show you. Just a little clip. It's not working.
Nope.
Well, you can take my word for it, they're adorable.
I apologize. So as you can see, our goal this year as educators has been to think through as we move into phase 2 and bring our students into in-person learning, how we can make it as close to it was in the years past, and make sure that it is safe and it's welcoming and it's warm for our students. And I'm so proud of my kindergarten teachers and my kindergartners for coming in and doing a great job. So if I can give my littlest kindergartners another round of applause for being so brave tonight. Good job, friends, and they're doing great with all of the social distancing protocols, and we're so proud of them. Do I have any questions? Okay, and I will talk with Dr. Kilbride about getting that back out to you guys so you can actually see those videos that we have. Thank you very much.
I would also like to ask our Marvin families if you could all stand. And we'd like to give you a round of applause because you are being successful with this. Thank you so much. Good job. Thank you, parents, for all of your support. Thank you, guys. It's so fun to see the excitement. I love it. Okay. Moving on to 1.06, our report of closed session. I'd like to report that the Board of Education met in closed session on October 8, 2020 for the purpose of discussion of real estate and personnel agenda items. Moving on to 1.07 is our public comment time. I have two forms here. The first form I have is from Miss Sarah Phillips Morgan. If you'd like to come forward. Very nice to meet you.
Hello, I know I'm a regular here these days. Normally I'd be coming here talking about numbers and data and recommendations from different organizations, and I'm not going to do that tonight, and it's not because those things are not important. They really are, but honestly I don't really think that they're going to make a difference, and that's really not what's at the forefront of my mind. Today is a very bittersweet day for me, and I'm sorry I might get a little emotional. Marvin was the school of the month, and my son started at Marvin in kindergarten, and he is now a 4th grader. And we've loved our times there. It was great to see Miss Schulten was his kindergarten teacher, and from his kindergarten class up until last year, I volunteered in her class weekly. So every school year, I knew at least a quarter of the kindergarten kids. And we've just loved our time there. And Levi has grown by being there into an independent and confident child. And so we have nothing, my family has nothing but good things to say about the faculty and staff and the people at Marvin. We think they're great. And even before I became pregnant with Levi, my husband and I determined that we wanted to be a part of our local school. That was important to us. We live in this community. We wanted our son to thrive, but we also want our community to thrive. We want all the other children that we didn't even know at the time to have a good place to come and learn. And like I said, I've been able to be a helper in the school, and I've loved getting to know the faculty and the staff and the students. I really felt like it's a home when I would walk in and I would know the people and be able to call them by name, and even a lot of the kids would come up and talk to me, or I might see them at Walmart now or at the grocery store or even just down the street. And it's just such a wonderful thing. And I really feel like the faculty and staff there really want the kids to grow and to thrive. But it's bittersweet because the last several months have been very difficult for our family. I've talked to Levi's teacher, and she said she hasn't really noticed in class, but at home we notice. We notice how he has lost his independence and his confidence. And right now he really struggles with stress and anxiety to the point that we're looking into counselors for him, that he just can't control the emotions that he has at the moment, and they've been getting worse over the last several months. I've also noticed that, he's kind of become lazy. He doesn't want to sit at his desk and work. He wants to lay on the bed and lounge, and, I have a break, I'll just run around the house, or I'll go get a snack. And his work ethic is not what it used to be, and I know that he would never behave that way if he was in a classroom. We were hopeful as a family that hybrid would get him back on track and get him back some of the things that he had lost. And he should have started in hybrid in October, but the board voted no on that. He should have actually started today. Today would have been the day that he would have gone back in his B cohort to be in the classroom. But that has now been pushed back a week and a half. And I think we would all be naive to say that with the way things are going at the moment, that actually starting on the 23rd is actually going to happen. I mean, I have zero confidence that our 4th and 5th graders and middle schools will get back. I hope I'm wrong on that, but personally, that's how I see it going. So my family has made the difficult decision to put Levi in a private school. We've looked at a private school. This is not what we ever wanted to do. We were actually vehemently opposed to this even just a few months ago. I might mention it to my husband, and he would say, no, let's give it some time, let's see, we're committed to the school. It's been just a really difficult decision, and we were really actually nervous to tell Levi that we were even considering this because he's had so much stress and anxiety. We thought we can't add to that. So we kind of hid it and kept it a secret. He didn't know we were going on a tour. We kind of talked to him a little bit about it before then, but he didn't know that's what we were doing that day because we didn't want to add to it. But it surprised me so much when we did broach the subject with him about being able to go to a school where he could be in person 5 days a week. I really thought he was going to break down. But it seems like a weight lifted from his shoulders. He has said not one negative thing about it. He's had a lot of questions, but he's also had a lot of excitement about it. And I was just completely surprised that his behavior and his demeanor, while they're not perfect, I mean, he is a 10-year-old boy, they have gotten so much better. I feel like he has this weight lifted off of his shoulders just by knowing that that was an option at the time. Levi did a shadow day at this school yesterday, and he's normally a very timid child. I remember in kindergarten for one of his conferences, it was his second one, so it was spring. He'd been there a whole year. I had been in his classroom once a week. We were in there. It was just my husband and me and him and Miss Schulten. And he was showing me something on a computer, and my husband even just came over and he didn't say a word. He was looking around. That's the kind of child that he naturally is, just very timid and shy. But he went there yesterday to a brand new building he had never been in before. He didn't know anything about how it was set up. To brand new teachers, brand new students. He hasn't even had the opportunity like he had at kindergarten here to explore the school a little bit. He went into there, and he was nervous. He told me on the way, "Mom, I'm really nervous." And I told him that's understandable. But he went into the building with excitement. And we picked him up at the end of the day, and we were really, really curious about how it would go. And like I said, he is a 10-year-old boy, so I really wanted him to get in the car and say, "Oh, Mom, this and that, and this and that," and talk, for 20 minutes. But that's not what they do. So he told us a little bit about the day, about the specials, and about, we did this at recess, or they played this weird game that he didn't know at recess, and some things. And he kind of started opening up over time. And we said, well, we'll give him a minute to collect his thoughts. But as we were driving and it was kind of quiet in the car, he finally asked, am I going to school there? I really like it there. And I said, well, buddy, probably so. We'll have to keep looking at it. And by the time we got home, he's like, well, I am going to school there because it's really great and I get to go there and do things and be around people and I've decided. And I said, well, okay, for as much as you get to decide, that is great, buddy. And I haven't seen him that excited about things for a long time. And it's school. And he's always been a pretty good student. But I mean, he wants to go to school. This school starts at 8:15 and it's a 25-minute drive. He doesn't care. He is not a morning person, but he's just excited that he can go there. And I am so excited for him. And I wanted this to happen for him, but I really wanted it to happen here. That's why I said it's bittersweet for me, because I still really love Marvin. I still want to be involved in Marvin, even if he's not there. But we have to do what's best for him. And so we're planning on taking him out of the district for at least the rest of this year. We haven't finalized the plans for that, but that is what we're doing. And while I'm excited for him, I'm troubled for other families in our district because, let's be honest, there aren't a lot of families in our district that can make this choice. Private school is expensive, and there's the logistics of how do I get them there and how do I get them back. And if you have more than one child, then that is expounded. So they don't have this option. They're really at the mercy of what Ritenour decides to do because they can't do anything else. And today in the governor's press conference this morning, the DESE official made a statement, and I thought it was really interesting, and I'm paraphrasing the statement, but she was talking about people being quarantined and not being able to be in school and teachers and all of this, and she said, well, but we haven't heard anyone saying that they just don't want kids in the classroom. But that's kind of what I feel like is going on in Ritenour. There are people, and not all of them I know, and we have great teachers that want the kids there, and I know we have administrators that do, so I know this is not a blanket statement for the district, but I do feel like there is a group that just doesn't want the kids in the classroom.
Ms. Phelps, Morgan, I really don't want to interrupt you, but it's well over the 5 minutes. Is there any way that you can
I'm done.
Wrap it up?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm just saying that, while we are this is a difficult decision for us, don't think that I'm not going to be here because there's still kids in my community that need this school, and I still want to advocate for them because, they need a place to go. So I just wanted to let you know that for my family, and hopefully something can happen to get these kids back in school, that the kids that need it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next one I have is Mr. Wiesler.
Good evening. Thank you for the time to speak this evening. My name is Rob Wiesler, and I've been teaching here at the high school for 7 years now. I feel the public has heard from teachers that have many concerns and hesitations about students returning to school in person. I want to briefly let parents and students know that there are teachers that want students to return and do not share all these concerns and fears. Just like many students want to return in-person learning immediately, there are teachers that feel the same way, and that I'm one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank you both for coming and speaking tonight. So I'd also like to state that we received several emails, and so I consolidated, or I had them all consolidated so that way we could share that with you guys. They are all online, so you can read each of them individually, but I will read the statement. So we have more than 25 messages from Ritenour staff members about their fears and concerns as we move forward, transitioning many more of our students to phase 2 for hybrid in-person learning on November 23rd. We have taken the time to read each and every message that we have received. Although we won't read every letter tonight during our meeting, please know that we are listening and value your opinions, thoughts, questions, and insights. Thank you for taking some of your valuable time to reach out to us to share your feelings and concerns. Many of the messages asked us, why bring the students back to school now, when case numbers are rising and hospitals are almost full? The messages also address the need to keep students learning virtually during the holiday season, address sub-shortages, the ability to effectively contact trace, building shutdowns in other districts, and COVID-19 cases among students and staff. The movement to phase 2 at grades 4 through 8 and for the selected students at Ritenour High School is causing a great deal of anxiety and stress for many of our staff members. And we want you to know that we are listening to you and your concerns. Teachers stated that they feel that they are unfairly at risk during this pandemic. This is such a challenging and uncertain time for all of us. Each day we receive new and sometimes conflicting information. Just this morning, Missouri Governor Mike Parson announced that the state is relaxing its guidance for students and staff being quarantined. At the same time, the St. Louis County Department of Health sent Dr. Kilbride a message asking our district to continue our current practices for quarantining students and staff. These mixed messages do not make it easier for us to communicate and make important decisions. To be clear, we don't have a plan to change our current quarantine process for students or for staff. Please know that we will continue to make responsible choices based on the guidance from health officials and the data in our area. The safety of our students and staff is our utmost priority. We've had great success so far in our hybrid in-person learning for our youngest elementary students and full-time in-person learning at our School of Early Childhood Education. To our knowledge, there have been some COVID-19 cases in our schools, but no evidence of school-wide spread of the virus. Transition teams at each school should be commended for their outstanding work with keeping our staff and youngest learners safe by wearing masks, washing hands, and properly social distancing at all times. We have placed a priority on in-person learning. The foundations of teaching and learning in person are so important for all of our students. This can be accomplished with significantly lower class sizes during the phase 2 hybrid model, where each group of students attend school in person 2 days a week. We know this is a scary, difficult, and emotional time for all of us. We thank you for your patience and your grace as we work to navigate this situation and make the best decisions for our children, our staff, and our community. Thank you again for taking time to reach out to us with your concerns and questions. Everybody else is gone. No other questions?
Jennifer, I'd just like to add to that.
Yes.
Just take this down so you guys can hear me.
That is a boom mic, so everybody can hear you.
Yeah. So, in our conference for the statewide, when we had Dr. Redfield talk to us, and again today I heard the DESE, I can't think of her name right now. Margie, say that, it's not showing that that COVID is coming from the school, it comes from the community into our schools. So as long as everyone is doing what they can in the community, and we have good showing from our own records that it's not coming, people aren't coming to school and getting it and going home, it's the other way around. I think we're doing the right thing.
Okay. All right. I got confirmation from Orlando, he could hear you loud and clear.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to our reports. I have the president's report. Sorry. I'd like to announce Marion Elementary 4th grade Ritenour Virtual Academy teacher, Alexis Jamerson, which makes me smile under here, you can't see it, has been selected as a recipient of a 2020 Emerson Excellence in Teaching Award. The award recognizes teachers for their vital role in shaping their students' lives. Alexis was selected by Ritenour administrators for her contributions to the teaching profession and for her role in the education of Ritenour students. On October 22nd, district and school administrators pushed into her virtual classroom and surprised her with the award as her class showered the screen with emoji claps. As an Emerson Award recipient, Alexis will be eligible to apply for grants provided by Emerson to support curriculum and instruction for her students. Congratulations to Alexis on this amazing honor. You can all clap for her. Dr. Kilbride, I'll move the superintendent report to you.
Thank you, Ms. Slonis. So board members, I'd like to recognize Evelyn Gilliam as a part of my report this evening. Recently, we recognized Ms. Gilliam along with the Greater St. Louis Librarians Association. Ms. Gilliam is the Library Advocate of the Year. So she received the award from the Greater St. Louis School Librarians Association, and she was nominated by Ritenour High School librarian Christina Northrup Thompson. The award was given in a socially distanced fashion at the Admin Center on the 23rd of October, along with members of the district leadership team. Evelyn told the presenters that the award has special meaning because her mother was a library assistant for nearly 20 years in Ladue in University City. Congratulations to Evelyn on this well-deserved honor. She's an advocate for teachers in their professional learning. Board members, I'd also like to recognize the teachers that reached out to me personally as well. A number of the letters that were read were addressed to the Board of Education, but there were also letters that were addressed to me as well. So teachers, I thank you for your engagement around this very difficult emotional topic and for keeping the focus on our children as well as your colleagues. So thank you. That concludes my report.
Can we give a round of applause for Evelyn? Thank you. Moving on to 2.03, we have our MSBA, NSBA report with Dr. Thomas.
And are we ready to roll the film, Doug? Or whoever the magician is behind the
Fred.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of November. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the important work of school nurses during the COVID-19 pandemic. There are approximately 1,600 school nurses in school districts throughout the state working every day to keep our students, teachers, and staff healthy so they can continue to teach and learn. Their work is especially important during the COVID-19 pandemic. The director of the Missouri Association of School Nurses, Linda Newman, tells MSBA COVID-19 has taken quite a toll on the social, emotional aspects of a lot of children, and it's often the school nurse that's first to recognize those issues.
When the children keep asking to come to the school nurse, what could seem like a simple headache or stomach ache to, a teacher or another staff member, as the school nurse is able to see them one-on-one and kind of, start a conversation and build trust, you often find other things that are going on at home. Maybe mom or dad have lost their job and there's increased stress at home. Maybe grandmother who lived in the home with them has passed away from COVID. There are just so many different factors right now.
Newman says school nurses are likely to be the designated people to conduct rapid testing for COVID-19 in school districts that choose to participate in the program. Newman adds school nurses are working with local health departments on contact tracing when COVID-19 cases arise. She also says school nurses are encouraging everyone to get a flu shot this fall. She says school nurses are encouraging students and families to stay vigilant by continuing to wear masks, wash hands frequently, and maintain social distancing. As you may know, state law now requires all school board members to not only receive training in their first year of service, but also 1 hour of refresher training for every subsequent year of board service. The training must include concepts covered in the initial training, plus the prevention of sexual abuse of children. The MSBA Leadership Development Committee now has added completion of the MSBA refresher training as a requirement for achieving advanced, master, and distinguished board member certification, as well as the Governance Team Award. MSBA's immediate past president and chair of the Leadership Development Committee, Rhonda Gilstrap of Blue Springs, explains the new requirement for governance team recognition.
And in order for that to happen, all 7 board members of a particular board that is seeking out the governance award needs to have completed the additional hour of refresher training.
Visit the MSBA website for information on the various levels of board member certification, along with details on the Governance Team Award. Does your school district have an emergency operations plan? MoEOP is a new web-based application developed by MSBA's Center for Education Safety and vetted by several school district safety personnel that will assist school staff responsible for emergency planning to create, store, and share school plans with school personnel and approved first responders. Bob Klossmeyer is an education safety coordinator with the Center for Education Safety.
Emergency operations planning can be a long and drawn-out process, ultimately concluding in an extensive and detailed document. Our team at CES recognizes this challenge and has launched an interactive web-based development tool designed to reduce the burden on schools, simplify EOP creation, and improve the overall safety climate for Missouri education.
The Center for Education Safety is conducting regional webinars about the new MoEOP application and train subscribing schools on the use of this new tool designed to keep our schools as safe as possible. Filing for school board seats up for election in April opens on December 15th in most school districts in the state. MSBA will have updated free resources available to school board candidates posted on the MSBA website, including a candidate's legal guide to running for the school board and information on the roles and responsibilities of school boards. Filing for school board seats closes on January 19th. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
Okay, just a note. I probably say this every month, but if you look at your email, however you got signed up for email through either our Ritenour account or your own account, whichever one you use, every week, almost every day, you get email from the Missouri School Board Association with its legislative voice. They're talking about the monthly report, the November board bulletin. We're going to talk about nominations for statewide offices. There's a lot of information being pushed out to us right now through email because we can't meet in person. We can't do the Region 7 meetings and things like that. So keep an eye on your email. Look at it, please. You know, I look at it daily. And there's a lot of also webinars that they push out. Various topics that you might be interested in. So I would really say, you know, this is more important than any other time that we go to the website of MSBA, NSBA, and we look at the emails that they're sending us. There's a lot of information there, and we can get some training off of those as well. And with that, that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Dr. Thomas.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on to our business items, we have our 3.01. We have our accountability and instructional effectiveness report with Dr. Stewart and Ms. Hahn.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I'm going to scoop over just a little bit. So with this report, Dr. Stewart and I are going to share some of the details related to data and instruction for last year. So remember, this report is always almost a year behind. So we're looking at last year's data. Actually, I find this report to be one of the most useful reports. I go back to it frequently throughout the year. Same thing with the safe and drug-free schools. It does guide our work. So this is used as a tool that we would use to make good decisions. Thinking about our vision in the school district, what we're going to cover today, we'll look at some of the academic areas and also how are we doing with our graduation rates. With the mission, what supports do we have in place for our students? What supports do we have in place also for the teachers within the school district to help them with the students? With the equity statement, this is where we're going to look at some of the subgroups to see how we're doing with our systems and structures in our subgroups. In the report, and this is just an overview of the report, these are the areas that we like to cover. Remember, no APR this year. We didn't have our EOCs, didn't have our grade level assessments, so the data is limited. However, we do have numbers 2 through 5, which were supplied by the state. So when we go over this, I'm going to share some of the data, and then Dr. Stewart will share what are some of the strategies that are put in place for this school year related to that data. So because we did not have the grade level assessments or EOCs, we had to rely on evaluate benchmarking. So if you look back, or if you look at the bottom of this slide, you'll see where we were at the end of, or at the start of 2019 with students that were proficient and advanced for Missouri and in Ritenour School District. We look at expected proficiency, and based on where we were showing growth in February last year before the pandemic in the area of math, but ELA we weren't where we wanted to be. So looking at the subgroups, in math, if we look at where we were the previous year, we were up about 10% in all subgroups. So we were looking pretty good in math, felt pretty confident about that. However, we obviously didn't get to see any results. With ELA, this is where we saw somewhat of a drop. So we saw a drop the biggest drop was with our Hispanic subgroup, and that was actually a significant drop with that group.
Okay, just to provide some information in regards to improving the academic achievement in these areas, we have coaches across the district that are focusing on supporting our teachers with technology and instruction. We have implemented new curriculum and resources for grades 3 through 5, and then our English 1 and 2 courses at Ritenour High School. And then the coaches and curriculum and instruction are also supporting the implementation of the new resources. We have a partnership with Washington University at the middle school level that's focused on professional development and inquiry-based math instruction. And our Ritenour School, there's a team of Ritenour School District administrators and teachers at the middle school level who are collaborating with other school districts in the area. We've also created learning modules across the district that includes priority standards, and this is a work in progress for second semester as we speak. Also, there's an additional coach that provides in-the-moment coaching to 2 elementary schools this year. And we've also limited our assessments and evaluated. We eliminated 4 months of assessments to provide more instructional time for our students. We've also developed a secondary math committee, which includes middle school administrators, high school administrators, and teachers and coaches who meet every week to collaborate on instructional practices for our middle school and high school and secondary math, and really focusing on interventions and enrichment for students. Also, we will continue to deepen our understanding in PLCs and create and have training to deepen that understanding.
So looking at some of the specialized programs, obviously we have more specialized programs than this, but these are some of the ones that I want to highlight and that are also highlighted within the report. An area of concern based on state information is we look at what is the incident rate of students receiving special education. So we had over 1,000 students last year receiving special education services, which makes up about 17% of our population in the school district compared to the state of Missouri. So you look at each one of those categories to see where is our incident rate higher than the state, and is there a particular category where we're seeing a lot of students fall. One of the areas that we would want to look at too are other health impaired and emotional disturbance. Those areas, when we look at them, also gives us an idea of mental health and how we provide services, particularly in that group, because with that category of what we would say ED for emotional disturbance, also an area where we see attendance concerns and lower graduation rates and higher dropout rates. So these are the top 6 categories. There are many different categories, about 13 to 14 categories where students may get services, but last year we had approximately 1,087 students from grades 3 through 12. Another area we look at too when we're talking about subgroups is the incidence rate for a particular subgroup higher than what it should be? An area that you don't see on here is the male and female. When we look at males, about 62% of the students getting special education are male compared to female students. So that is an area that we would want to look at. Are we over-identifying males? And are we over-identifying students who are Black or in a particular category? And based on this chart, you can see that that is an area of concern. Looking at English language learners. Last year, same thing. We had over 1,000 English learners. So what we look at are who are those students who are receiving services, meaning getting the most intensive services, versus those students who may have somewhat graduated from the program, and are we able to monitor them and make sure that they're showing the growth that they need. That AY3 and AY4, the state now looks at how are those students doing 3 and 4 years out of the program. So the English language learners were able to take a state assessment. So that's called the WIDA Access Test. And so that's divided into these categories. They're tested in reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and how they are performing. So with that, if a student tests at a 4.7, that's when they would then possibly go to that MY1, MY2, where we would monitor them. So last year, we had 29% of our students who met the expected growth that we would want them to have with their English language skills. And we had 53 students who reached proficiency and were able to exit the program. With Project Challenge, one of the areas that they've really been working on is improving that number. I don't know if you remember several years ago in certain buildings, it was at 13% of the students getting gifted education. They've done a fabulous job of really looking at how do we make sure we're looking at, are we choosing the right students for that program? And so you can see
that they're down at that 5, 6, 7, 8% where they should be. Now, also, you can look at the chart. They're again doing a better job, but this is not the way that this should look for gifted education as well. When you look at males and females for gifted education, it balances out. An area that I want to show you too that is where we've seen growth, the interventionists and the building teams have done a lot with their multi-tiered systems of support. We have seen a decrease over the years of the number of students requiring interventions. So we saw a drop last year, and then we also had a concern with the number of freshman students who were behind in credits. So we know that, we look at those transition years, 9th graders last year, we had 120 of them that are already behind in credits. 83 students in grade 4 that were placed on reading plans. This is a drop from previous years, but those are students that we have to put a plan in place for because they're over a year behind in reading. And with the kindergarten transition program, we had 10 students who were in that program. Several of them ended up getting special education services, and others have transitioned back to their buildings and classes. And for 504 plans, we had 51 of those in place.
Well, we have several strategies to improve the academic achievement of our students in specialized programs. We want to consistently collaborate with Ritenour School District and Special School District and gifted staff and data team meetings, and ensure that we continue to identify strategies, interventions, and enrichment for students to improve the academic achievement for all. We want to continue to restructure special student support teams at Ritenour High School to a process that's predictable and research-based. And also professional development of co-teaching. Co-teaching is actually something that teachers need professional development on to ensure that it is meeting the needs of all of our students. Our goal is to structure planning time to ensure that collaboration is at its highest with EL teachers, gifted, and other teachers to ensure that they're using data to make data-based decisions. And really want to look at the disproportionate representation of people of color in special education versus gifted education. And look at the best way to utilize supports for our EL students, and even looking at the number of EL certified teachers in different buildings.
So I'm going to move on to college and career readiness, some of the assessment results that relate to college and career readiness. The advanced placement exam was taken, and this is looking at last year. So you can see that we had a drop in the number of students and the number of exams that were given for 2020. And 3 through a 5 are the numbers that would give the students credit, or that we would consider even with DESE, where we would receive points for APR. Last year we did not have any 5s, but we had about 27% of the students who did score in that 3-4 range. The average score for our AP exams was a 1.71 across the exams. Another area that I want to highlight here, which I think we should think about too, is there were 47 females and only 16 males that took the exams. World history continues to be one of the most popular courses, as well as the English language and composition. But we did see a drop in a lot of the other courses. Something to think about and look at here is, this is the ethnicity groups taking advanced placement courses. And this mirrors what we looked at when we looked at gifted education, Project Challenge. So what we want to look at too is that changing at a younger age, and will that then change when when the students get to the high school level? When you look at how students did with dual credit and dual enrollment, we did see an increase in the number of seniors who took the course for dual credit. And again, when we talk about our APR, students need to get an A or a B in the course for the district to get credit. And we had 135 courses where the students received an A or B. And you can see when they did dual enrollment, we had 30 seniors, and each of those seniors, it looks like, took about 2 courses with about an 81% with the A or B. ACT for last year, we had 176 students, which is a drop from the year before, but our score went up. We had a 19.2, and the previous year it was an 18.2. Scores ranged on the ACT from a 12 to a 32, with, remember, 36 being the highest for the ACT. The national average was 20.6 for last year. With the ASVAB testing, I just got some of the results. So with that, last year we actually had 99 students who took the ASVAB test. 36 students received a 31 or higher. And we had about 9 students in a pretty high range, which was that 65 to 92 range.
To help support students in college and career readiness, we have an advisory period that supports students with information on employment, enlistment, enrollment, and provides an opportunity to practice college admission examinations. It's also important to disaggregate data to identify and support students in advanced classes and take advantage of the free testing for students on advanced placement exams. We also want to ensure that we are involving partners and partner with our parents for information on college and career readiness.
So looking at the attendance, and the state did have the attendance data for last year. This is our 90-90. All schools actually showed a slight drop last year, except for Marvin. Marvin had a slight increase. Booter has continued to remain our highest school with attendance, and that's been for about, 4 or 5 years in a row that their attendance has been the highest. And again, our English learners tend to have the highest attendance rate as well.
Strategies to help improve attendance across the district. Our wellness teams across the district have focused on reaching out to families to provide resources, support, and information on attendance. Also, we want to design a smoother transition for students who are waiting for an alternative placement.
So looking at our graduation rate, it remained similar to the year before. And the way they look at the 4-year graduation rate, they look at that cohort that came in at the very start, and we had 458 students that started 4 years ago in the freshman class, with only 342 of them graduating. So some of those students could have been transfer students, or they could have dropped out, they could have gone somewhere else. But if we start with them and we don't know where they go, we end up losing them. So with our count, our 7-year graduation rate was highest, and that was an 83.9%. So the plus with that is that tells us that some of those students are coming back. So it may take them some time. Our adult ed has done a really good job of helping to find some of those students. The high school reaches out, tries to find some of the students, Husky Academy, and they can come back, and we will get credit for them. So that is a positive. Looking at the 4-year graduation rate, because ideally we'd love for all of them to graduate within the 4 years. Areas of concern here would be that LEP group, which is, we're talking about the English learners, and also the students with IEPs. Still seeing a drop in significant concerns with that 4-year graduation rate. Wanted to highlight also the dropout rate. So if you look at where Ritenour is compared to the state, ours is continuing to grow. That is something we really need to focus on. And again, This is looking at our males too. Where we're seeing a lot of the dropout rate has to do with males, and the highest subgroups there are the white subgroup and Hispanic students.
Strategies to improve graduation rates. We want to expand Missouri Options to provide more alternative graduation options for students and explore options to provide support to IEP, English learners, Hispanic subgroups so that more of our students are graduating. And how do we monitor our progress? Our buildings and departments have action plans that include evidence and adjustments to the plan if needed. We have professional development and a data team process throughout the district. And also structures are in place to monitor data points and schedule quarterly evaluations with administrators.
So at this point, that was a quick, maybe it doesn't feel quick, but overview of the report. And if you have time, I would encourage you to read through the entire report. And like I said, we go back and use that report to see what do we need to fine tune and what are areas that we need to address and we can't wait to address. And I think I pointed out some of those to you this evening. I also want to apologize. I feel like I just ran a marathon, and it's because of this mask, but I'm trying to talk so much. But also would like to know if you have any questions about the report or any of the data.
I have a question. You said that you eliminated 4 of the eval tests in order to give more time for more instruction, but I don't understand how a teacher knows how well a child is doing if they're not being evaluated and tested. How can you know that, you're getting rid of 4 tests? How do you know that they're learning then?
Because we have other assessments to look at. We have being a reader assessments and ELA to look at. Students are using IXL in reading, and teachers are still looking at that to assess where our students are falling in ELA. For math, we have common assessments in math. We also have IXL assessments in math, and we have our SMART goals that we look at as well. So we're looking at other assessments and not really just evaluate, which we didn't just look at evaluate, but we're looking at other assessments to help inform us on how our students are doing.
Is evaluate like a very time-consuming thing that you feel you don't need to do because you have all these other assessments? Or I'm not understanding why you eliminated evaluate.
Part of it is because of the pandemic and the fact that many students are at home, and it is a challenge also to do the assessments while you have students at home.
Okay.
And it's also wanting to avoid, because we passed policy for students to take assessments on campus.
Yes.
And so we can't accomplish that generally with evaluate. And so we didn't want to have in-person teachers, a whole week's worth of in-person be evaluate testing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Julie, one of the slides showed that about a quarter of our freshmen failed classes. What is our plan? What's our process to find these earlier and course correct for them? If our freshmen aren't getting a good solid base in their credits, this is going to amount to where when they're a junior or senior, there's no way they can end up graduating. How do we head that off? What are our plans for that?
That's a great question, and actually I knew you were going to ask that question, Brad, because that has been a concern that you've mentioned over the years, and I feel like we are doing a better job of identifying those students at an earlier point, and we do know who they are. You can see even at when we say at grade 4, we're starting some of the reading plans. We know those are some of the students at risk. So right now at the high school with the graduation coach, they've also assigned different people for the freshman class to really focus on those students who are going to need catch up, and to get credit recovery. But it's a concern.
This is just a curious question. You said that the ELO students have the better attendance rate? Are they mostly at Booter?
Are they, no, well, they do have a lot of English learners at Booter, yeah,
Yeah.
they do.
So do they have a lot there?
They do, but so does Marion, all the schools do. And that's what we always say, is every teacher in the Ritenour School District is an English language teacher, English language learner teacher.
I was just curious about
When you were talking, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
When you were talking about the AP classes, the numbers going down, and you said that the college credit, the dual credit and the dual enrollment is going up, is it that they're getting more value out of the dual credit, dual enrollment over the AP classes? And so that more students are moving that way instead of the
That's a possibility. And I think that would be something that we would want to ask the students, why are they choosing that versus an advanced placement?
It was also a targeted effort a couple of years ago with the Core 46, and so, you know, sometimes colleges wouldn't take AP class, AP credit, so there was the articulation agreement with St. Louis Community College that was developed, and with students getting courses for $25 per credit hour, we started funneling more and more students in that direction. Students still have a choice, but personally, we just see a lot of value in dual credit.
So one thing I did not look at, Jennifer, but while you were just asking that, I was thinking we need to look at are the students who are doing the dual credit, dual enrollment also the ones taking some of the AP courses, or are they completely different?
Okay. Thank you.
Lisa?
When we look at our data regarding GT and special education, the disproportion is not news, it's not new information for us. So can you give me a little bit more specific examples about things that we are tangibly doing to address that data?
For special education?
Yeah, the disproportionate rates.
Well, I think that one of the things that we are doing is we're looking at particular, what are the areas where students are being referred. So is it for an emotional disturbance, or is it for a learning disability? We also look, is it a particular building, and do we need to refine some of the structures that we have in place? Or is it do we have a high number of English learner students that we're referring for language services when that might not be the case? Don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah, I'm just curious, because I know, like I said, the data is not news to us.
Right.
It's not news. So I think it's great that we have these concepts, but I'm not sure if I'm understanding what we're doing in that. What does that look like on a day-to-day basis of how we are truly supporting that? And what I mean, the best example that I can give is like, we had a whole plan together for virtual learning, and this is our expectation, but when we look at the artifacts, we're at 23% and 9% that's actually coming back from our staff. So this is our concept, but when we look at our data and what's happening in the day-to-day, what does that look like? For me as a board member, because I'm not there to see that, so I'm just curious, can you help me understand what that looks like?
Well, I know one thing that we're working on is we're partnering with special school district and really focusing on equity and really having professional development with staff that focuses on equity and what that looks like in different cultures, when we're working with students, which would help understand how kids, our students are doing and why they're doing what they're doing. I think that that's helpful to work on equity.
The other thing I think about too is when we looked at that RTI, so those students that we identified as academically struggling, do we have any type of evaluations in place that kind of look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs and kind of start there with them? Or does it all come from an academic perspective?
It's both. So yes, it's absolutely both. And that's where our counselors, social emotional experts, and social workers all look at that data when we do a screening as well for the students with the social emotional piece.
And oftentimes we have a wraparound team where we even invite BJC in to come in and just have a wraparound service to support our students.
So board members, there's certainly some opportunities in the data, and one of the things that we've been working, from my perspective, in a very targeted way has been around graduation rate at the high school as well as dropout rate. And as you can see, data is not moving in the right direction, especially in the area of dropout rate. You know, the first part of the work around dropouts is to know the students that are at risk, and for those students that at some point during their tenure during Ritenour High School have disenrolled or gone away, to know who those students are and to have a team of people working to try to track down those students. Over the course of the last school year, every Friday, it was one Friday a month, we had every principal and 1 or 2 office professionals from every building in this, either in the lower lobby or over in the art gallery. And we were keeping constant track of those students that had disenrolled or just stopped showing up from every one of our schools. And just the difficulty in trying to track students down is something that is real, and it's something that we're staying really, really focused around. You know, happy to report that it was a week and a half ago, we got a completer. And so, you know, a student turned out that they stopped coming here, ended up completing down in the Boot Heel of Missouri, and then was one student that got pulled out of our dropout rate. You know, students, it's kind of like a diaspora. Students go all over the place. I think this struggle is going to be even greater now that we're in the fully virtual environment. So I feel like we have the right structure. We don't have the results that we need, but I think we have the right structure to first know who these students are, and in the process to try to track them down. But I think it comes back to, honestly, the quality of the learning and the interaction in every classroom every day. We've got a lot of the right structures and processes in place, but you know, if we're not turning kids on and plugging them in the classroom every day, I think that's where we're losing out.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with relationships, and I'm wondering if the kids that are dropping out, have they been with us the whole 4 years, or did they try our school and then they didn't like it? Because a lot of that happens, especially nowadays.
Data consistently shows, when we look at our graduating class, you know, the students that are with us throughout their entire tenure in the Ritenour School District, their success rates, the percentage of students that graduate with a 3.0, for the students that stay with us throughout their tenure, the data is pretty compelling and it's pretty strong. Our real opportunity is we have more and more students that come and go. Right. That's their reality. And so we have to figure out how we can better accommodate them, because that's their reality if there's some transiency. Because the data shows those are the students that we're not serving to the degree that we need to be.
And this chart on dropout, it's percentages.
Doesn't every student have a Missouri ID number now?
They do. It's called a MSSBA ID.
Is that still making it difficult to track them?
So I think, you know, it can help. Julie, what's your experience with MSSBA IDs?
No, it helps significantly. What we're seeing a lot of, either they move out of state, or someone may be in transition, become homeless, and just not go to school for a while. That happens, and then we'll see them on the street, you know, walking down the street and say, hey, we need to get you back in school. But the MSSBA number does help, but if we don't get a records request, Brad, from another school district, we don't know where they are, because they often don't tell us.
So board members, thinking creatively about this dropout opportunity. So we have the Husky Support Center. You know, we spend significant money every year on transporting kids in taxi cabs all over St. Louis County and outside St. Louis County. You know, the idea of within 3 to 5 years providing some transitional housing for students that may be in transition, so that we can keep them in the district, you know, keep them in a place that's stable. We can monitor their attendance closely, and you know, based on some projections, there's the potential that we could be cost neutral within about 5 years. The money that we would have to put into Husky Support Center to turn in transitional housing versus the amount of money that we're spending on putting kids in taxi cabs within 5 years could be a break-even proposition. So I hope to continue to be having these conversations with you about another strategy to reduce that dropout rate, providing a consistent environment for our kids during the week. And there's other models that are out there. We can learn from Maplewood. We can learn from Jennings. We have the capacity to just do that on a much larger scale at the Husky Support Center.
So when we look at the graduation focus areas, it has expand Missouri options to 2 sessions. Currently, what do we have, and is that like each semester, there'll be more than 2 sessions? How does that generally work?
So in the past, Lisa, it was just in the morning, and now we have a morning and an afternoon session, so we were able to double the number of students that could go through Missouri options.
Are we able to supply anything like an evening? Like when you say afternoon, what about an evening?
You know, that's another option, Jennifer, that we can look at. We would have to think about staffing at Husky Academy, but that's a wonderful idea.
I just think some kids might be working during the day to help support their family. So we give them that option to come in the evening.
Right.
Well, does that align with the implement work-based learning options at alternative ed or Husky Academy? Or what is that?
So for some of the students, they can get some credit for work-based learning, and oftentimes some of the students there need as many credits as we can help them get. So making sure that they are getting that support also from the high school for the work-based learning program would help. And even when you're in Missouri Options, you need to show 15 hours of either community service or some kind of work experience. So they do need to have, it's not just going there for the courses, you need to be doing something else in addition to.
And when students complete the Missouri Options program, that's the same as graduating?
They get their diploma.
Thank you.
Getting their diploma.
Well, it's always a good report, but it's always disheartening at the same time.
But there's some pluses. I think we should celebrate some of the pluses though too. Yeah.
It does seem like there are some more positives here than we've seen in recent years. It was more upbeat. There were some good things going on.
Right.
I do like seeing that our International Welcome Center and the people that we serve there is expanding and growing, and we have that many ELL students. There's 1 in 6 now, 1 in 5 almost. I think that's good for our communities.
Agree.
So yeah, there's some good things going on here. Wish we could stand on the rooftop and tell everybody that.
I was just going to finish by saying, it's disheartening to sit here and hear these things, but I know it's even more, you guys work really, really hard at it, and I appreciate what you do and the strategies you're coming up with.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks to the teachers too with what they're doing. Yeah. So.
We're in a very challenging time, and just making sure that all of our students know what options they have, I think is another key, and that might also help with our graduation rates. You know, do they understand what Missouri options are?
Right.
And that is an opportunity for them. So, especially right now in this time.
Dr. Kilbride and I also talked with Ms. Campschroeder today, who, you know, has done our college program at the high school, who will be retiring. And, you know, thinking about how we can tap into her expertise as well, maybe looking at the middle school level, you know, and starting at a younger age with really working with some of the parents and some of the students there and prepping them for some of the opportunities that we have at the high school level. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Wait a minute.
That's me. I'll stay. Okay, so I am presenting our comprehensive school improvement plan. We partner with parents and community to develop leaders who have achieved academic excellence and become productive citizens who lead lives with high levels of integrity. The mission of Ritenour School District is to create a supportive learning environment that enables students to develop critical thinking and problem-solving skills to be successful in a diverse global society. And this is aligned to our equity statement. As a district, we will continue to implement a restorative approach to discipline that educates students on a more appropriate choice and provide an opportunity for student voice, and cultural factors that may influence discipline referrals. We want to remove those cultural factors that influence discipline referrals, and also our wellness teams that we have talked about several times help provide support to our families with resources and information for families that have experienced trauma. Our comprehensive school improvement plan, our district has established goals and strategies with the input of all stakeholders, and our buildings and departments have action plans that are aligned to the district goals and strategies. The outcomes and results are monitored to ensure growth, and if we're not seeing that growth, then plans are adjusted to meet the needs and goals of strategies in the district. We have processes in place to check results monthly and adjust as needed. The plan for each department is aligned to our 3 goals for our district. To improve academic achievement is our first goal. Second goal is to ensure graduation. Our students graduate college or career ready. And our third goal, we want to make sure that 90% of our students are in school 90% of the time. So in October, board members, you heard from our building leaders about their describing the goals of their building and discussing the achievement, discipline, and attendance data, as well as their CSIP action plans to address student needs. Principals, they discussed the collaborative structures that they have in place to address the academic, behavioral, attendance, social-emotional needs of students. They also described the plans to involve the school community and the PD plan to improve instruction, trauma-informed practices, and other areas identified by our school leaders. District administrative departments also develop action plans as a part of the district CSIP. Department actions are developed to support building and district efforts to increase outcomes for students and are also aligned to the 3 goals and corresponding strategies. This presentation will outline a few action steps in each department and their action plan. The detailed plans for each department has been uploaded in board docs. But a few strategies for curriculum and instruction and human resources. Curriculum instruction has focused on prioritizing the standards, and human resources also, some of their strategies are responding to COVID-related staff needs. This slide includes some of the strategies outlined in the action plans for Business and Facilities Department. And the Business Department and Facilities Department has focused on Proposition S bond issue construction projects, and the Facilities Department has focused a little on implementing processes in response to COVID-19. I say a little because there's other strategies that they're working on as well, both departments. This slide includes some of the strategies outlined in the action plans for all Ritenour Adult Education and Literacy and our Technology Department. And our Ritenour Adult Education and Literacy, they'll continue to increase literacy needs of families in Ritenour School District. And the Technology Department will continue to collect, monitor, and support the technology needs of staff and families in Ritenour School District. These are also examples of strategies implemented by Student Services and Community Services Department. Our Student Services Department has focused on restorative practices and creating wellness teams as a few of the strategies in the plan. And also Community Services has really put a large focus on increasing the input of communication with our families during this pandemic as well. All of the strategies and action plans are aligned to the goals and strategies in Ritenour School District. Examples of strategies implemented for child nutrition and transportation. These are some of the strategies that are on the slide here. A few of the strategies from both departments focus on adjusting the services and needs of students during phase 2 and 3 of learning. To sum up the CSIP, goals and strategies were developed with all stakeholders from staff, students, and parents. And then action plans are aligned to our goals and strategies for the district. They're measurable, monitored, and 30-day increments. And then we adjust as needed. We look at the results. If it's not working, we adjust the strategies. The goal is that we're achieving our Ritenour vision and mission. Any questions?
I did have a question in the human resource section. I see this on a lot of, not just our documents, just community-based documents and documents at work, where the goal is to hire and retain highly qualified, diverse staff. So can you give me an example, and it may not be you, it may be more Mike. What are the tangible things that we're doing around retention?
You know, actually, I know Mike, Dr. LaChance is working with Evelyn Gilliam and really trying to develop some strategies to make sure we're retaining our diverse staff as well and recruiting a diverse staff.
I'll say some of our data we'll share next month shows that this past year we've done a better job of retaining our diverse staff. We have not done a better job of recruiting, so our retention level has increased while our recruiting level has decreased. So we're still about the same level of staff of color, particularly teachers of color. So what we're trying to do is participate with the teachers of color group and have listening sessions and follow-up sessions regarding what ideas they have for recruitment and retention. And then we're already reaching out to universities and organizations within universities to increase our recruitment efforts, and really working with that equity effort to try to create a space within the district where people want to stay and they want to make a career with us. That's some of our efforts thus far. And I don't know if you can hear me fully through.
Yeah, I can hear you surrounding what we're doing as far as recruitment, but tangible for retention. What are those strategies for retention?
Yeah, so far those are creating the teacher of color group. So they have a safe space to discuss issues that they're addressing, and then they also meet with Dr. Kilbride and I on a monthly basis, and we have ongoing dialogue. Some of that effort is, again, through the professional development and through the equity efforts to, again, impact. What we hear from them is they don't always feel like the spaces that they're in with their colleagues who are not of color are safe spaces for conversation. So working on that effort as well through the equity work to create that culture and climate within the staff. I don't know if that's tangible enough, but that's what we've done thus far.
So listening, we're at the point of listening sessions.
Yeah.
Any other questions? So we're seeking approval of the 2021 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan.
I move that we accept the 2020-2021 Comprehensive School Improvement Plan as presented.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? I'll call the vote. Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin? Yes. Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover-Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis and Mr. Garden, if you could put in your vote.
It lags about a minute. The video from the live lags about a minute or something.
Oh. Orlando sent me a yes,
Penny's a yes.
and Penny sent in a yes. And I will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need screenshots of these. Okay. Okay, that's right. Thank you very much, Dr. Stewart and Ms. Hahn, for your presentations there. Moving on to 3.03, we have our first reading of policy IGAEB, School Health Instruction. Dr. Kilbride?
So board members, this is a draft policy, IGAEB. We received this through the MSSBA Policy Service. We have reviewed this with our attorney along with the policy committee. This is a first reading, so to remind you of the process, so there's a first reading and approval. If there are questions in between the second reading, that would happen at the December business meeting. And at the second reading, if it's approved, then the policy would be adopted. So IGAEB has to do with offering training around instruction in human sexuality as well as instruction in sexual abuse as required by law. I was asked a question today about the where changes and where policy recommendations such as this come from. This would come from legislative action, and our requirement as a school district, working with Dr. LaChance and now working with Ms. Opila through DESE, there's an items not waived checklist that comes about once a year, and there are specific policies, specific practices that we have in place that we have to be able to report to DESE that yes, in fact, we have this in place. So this policy IGAEB is something that we would need to approve into policy by the end of the 2020-2021 school year. There is a opt-out for the parents and guardians, an opportunity to opt out. There's also clear outlining of the content around the training around human sexuality as well as the training around sexual abuse. Of specific note, towards the end of the policy, in accordance with law, the district will provide trauma-informed, developmentally appropriate training to students in grades 6 to 12 regarding sexual abuse, but not limited to how to recognize, how to report, how to obtain assistance and intervention, and also resources for students affected by sexual abuse. Board members, there's additional language around the training. If you approve the first reading, in between the first and second reading, would be able to answer any questions around the policy. So this is the first reading for your consideration and approval of just the first reading.
So this is a new policy altogether, and we don't have to have this one per se approved by the end of the school year, but we have to have something on the books by the end of the school year. Is that correct?
So yeah, this is not an edit. So edits would come to you in consent generally. This is an entirely new policy that we do not have in the books. There are components of this specific policy that we have to adopt because we are held accountable by DESE through the items not waived checklist.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for an action on this one?
Yep, so we need a motion to approve the first reading of the policy.
So
We don't know.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Yes.
Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Clifford Jones?
No, not as written.
Okay.
Mr. Garden and I have a yes for Mr. Lewis
Yes from Penny.
and a yes for Mr. Garden, and I will vote yes.
You voted how?
Yes?
Okay, thank you.
So will you take this to our policy team?
This has been to the policy team at this point.
Okay.
If there are specific questions, I'd be able to answer any questions in between this first reading and the next time this would come back.
Will you take any suggestions back to the policy team to make adjustments to it?
So certainly can take recommendations or adjustments to the policy committee and also to the attorneys to make sure that if there needs to be edits and modifications, certainly would want to be able to do that, but would want to make sure that we're acting in line with the legislative requirement that we have.
Okay.
Do you want to say why you're?
Yeah, I had actually reached out to Dr. Kilbride today, and some of the language in here is very opinionated, and I get that it has to do with the items not weighed checklist. So some of it is being tied by the regulations that the state has put in place, and I'll just be very specific in regards to item 7, where it talks about advising students of the laws pertaining to their financial responsibility to children born in and out of wedlock, and advise students of the provision, well, not that section. So for me, that is language that's very biased in a way. So for the state to mandate that to a school district, I feel a certain type of way about that.
So you would just like it not to say born
Yeah.
in and out of, you would like to say children?
Just, I mean,
Advise students of the laws pertaining to
what does that
financial
have to do with the
responsibility.
policy about sexual health? What does that have to really do about educating children and students on sexual health with that type of language in there?
Advise students of the laws pertaining to financial responsibilities of the provisions? Is that what you mean? You just want that middle part taken out? It sounds like they're just trying to say they want the students to understand any financial responsibility they would have regarding.
Yeah, you're gonna have financial responsibility anytime you have a child, correct?
So that the conversation is around, there's a,
Oh, okay.
so around
Yeah.
the responsibility to children born in and out of wedlock.
Yeah, that's,
So you're talking
anytime
about
you have a
students
child.
having children, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna have a financial responsibility. So for me, that's very, here's my opinion with that.
Do you have a suggested way to rewrite that?
So I don't know if we can rewrite that. I don't know if that falls up underneath the items not weighed checklist.
So the next steps, if it suits the board, we'll take it back to the policy committee, we'll get the feedback from the attorney, and we'll seek the guidance of the MSBA attorney, because it's possible that specific language, we may have to show evidence in our policy that that's in there. So I'd be prepared to report back to the board here soon on that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
And if I could ask everybody just to take time to read through it one more time with a fine-tooth comb and make sure that that's the only, if you have any other things in there, to make sure to get them to Dr. Kilbride. Okay. Moving on to 3.04, we have Dr. LaChance with personnel recommendations.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I'm here to recommend personnel recommendations 1 through 21 and open to any questions you may have.
We keep adding virtual teachers, yes?
We do. So the question about virtual teachers, so there's always an on-ramp to virtual options. As new students register with the school district, they have the option of RVA. And also, when we announced the move to phase 2, we reopened the window, so.
So those staff represent additional 4th and 5th grade sections that were added.
Board members, a reminder too, all the RVA virtual teachers, those positions will be reopened in the summer. So that allows opportunity for the teachers that are in it that may not be interested in continuing in the full virtual option, the opportunity to offboard. Also allows other teachers the opportunity to jump in, go through the interview process and be a part of it as well.
So if they're in it already, do they have the preference to stay in it?
So if teachers are in it now, they're in it for the year. At this point, it's open back up in the summer. So there's not preference given, it's just based on an interview process.
I have a question from Mr. Lewis. Are we replacing numbers 2, 5, and 7 with 12, 13, and 14?
2, 7.
2, 5, 7 with 12, 13, 14.
No, we're still in process of interviewing and adding positions. So 12 is a position that has been there, but has been responsible for evening events, and without the evening events, transitioning into a different role to assist with custodial duties, in a different role. And the other positions, 13 and 14, I believe were mentioned, are part-time positions, and one of those mentioned prior is a full-time position.
Move we accept personnel recommendations 1 through 21 as presented.
Second.
I have a question. Are some of these that are going to be separating, is it due to fear of COVID?
There was conversation with one that I know that played a role.
I think that there are, some of it is personal fear of COVID, and some of it, I know that we're conducting exit interviews, and some of the response is family members have been impacted by COVID and other issues, and now there's greater demand to help care for even aging parents and other family members. So choosing now is the time to do that so they can attend to family needs.
Well, number 3 would really be missed.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? I'll call the vote. Dr. Thomas?
Yes.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover-Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis and Ms. DeGarden?
Penny's a yes.
Ms. DeGarden is a yes. And Mr. Lewis is a yes. And I will vote yes. Thank you. Moving on to 3.05, it's time for our board member comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share? No? Okay. We may move on to our consent agenda items. Just looking for a motion.
Move we accept consent agenda items 4.01 through 4.07 as presented to this board.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover-Jones?
Yes.
Ms. DeGarden and Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Ms. DeGarden is a yes. Mr. Lewis is a yes. All right, thank you. Moving on to 5.01.
Did you vote?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. I voted a yes. Sorry. I forget about myself a lot. Now 5.01.
I'd like to make a motion to reconvene in closed session per state statute 610021 for the purpose of a discussion of legal agenda items.
You know what, that'll actually be personnel agenda items.
Personnel agenda items.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. I'll call the vote. Dr. Thomas?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Alvin?
Yes.
Ms. Greco?
Yes.
Ms. Glover-Jones?
Yes.
I have a feeling our friend will say yes.
Yes.
Penny is a yes. I'm sorry, Mr. Garden is a yes, and Mr. Lewis is a yes. We are now in closed session.